So hello everybody, welcome to my astrological update. I'm Mark S. McNutt and I live in this wonderful rural Oregon setting that is just idyllic. Deer in the yard, all kinds of wildlife. I really appreciate it at this time of year. Hope to see you here sometime. This is a once a month free kind of give back to the rest of the world, and something I can do to a lot of people for free. I make my living doing readings. I don't make my living off of Patreon, and so doing these updates is something that I like to have a lot of subscribers, and it's all free. However, love for you to get your personal reading, and this is a powerful time of year to do that, as introspection is big on the circuit right now. So it's kind of a contradictory time of year because we're in Sagittarius right now. So I do these at the new moon, usually. New moon was on Thanksgiving, so I'm doing it on Saturday. And when it's a new moon, it's the sun and moon are in the same sign, and it sets a flavor for the month. There's 13 and a third lunar lunations in a year, in a solar year. That's the 13 versus the 12, and so I'll be doing 13 a year. And the sun and moon in Sagittarius starts a time of fire and inspiration and expansion. And meanwhile, the contradiction is that here in the northern hemisphere, we're going into the dark time of the year. Well, we're in the dark time of the year. Those of us on solar energy know that we're in the darkest 2 months of the year under Sagittarius and Capricorn. And so the sun and moon going into Sagittarius is a powerful time for expansion, but it's an inner expansion. It's an inner growth. It's Scorpio brings us into the dark side and helps us contemplate, or inspires us to contemplate the dark times, the emotional aspect, and then we move on to the fire energy. And water always begets fire in the zodiac. You have you start with the fire sign, then you go earth, air, water, and then fire again. And so this is the last cycle of the year in terms of the four elements. And so the fire energy is all about warmth, enthusiasm, inspiration, really going for it. And yet, as I mentioned, we're also incubating into the dark. So I've been contemplating on this the last few days, and what this really means is, well, there's a couple of themes going on this month, but just the Sagittarian part, the trick, the mastery with Sagittarius is about recognizing that kernel of fire in the darkest times, the kernel of fire in your soul, that part of yourself that just is keeping the fires warmed inside. And then what I want you all to contemplate is the expansiveness of fire, because Sagittarius is about spreading that fire. And as you know, you can just take one coal and then you can turn it into a forest fire. Project that fire, you can work with it. Fire is our friend. We who have walked on fire, we recognize that fire is an ally, that it's not it's a challenge, but it's not a contradiction. And so it's time to warm your ideas. It's time to expand on those ideas in the warmth of your soul. Because also this year, in particular, Mercury and Venus also just moved into Sagittarius, and Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, has just come out of retrograde and is about to go back into the beginning of the zodiacal cycle with Aries. So it's not so apparent right now. Right now, we're just seeing the spark that's underlying things. But that spark can be kindled into some amazing, powerful, fiery energy this time. And it's going to be a little challenging primarily because of that pesky Mars retrograde. So Mars is in Gemini, and Mars is in Gemini for 8 months, and Mars in Gemini is kind of dualistic, and it can be very action oriented, can be very idealistic. But when Mars goes retrograde, Yang energy goes a little south. So unfortunately, every other year when Mars goes retrograde, it's easy to predict that mass shootings will go up, that domestic violence will go up, and that the potentially violent interaction between people and clashing ideas and ideals, that they're going to come to the forefront at this time. So three mass shootings in the last 10 days, and I'm not like, there's a lot of things where I'm not that happy to talk about in terms of the large events and the manifestations here on the earth, but that one's kind of predictable, and just in the same way that last month I was speaking of Uranus conjunct the moon, the eclipsing moon, the day before the election. I was like, well, that means things are not going to go as planned. And as we saw, that was sure true. That was very unpredictable. Now we have a different flavor, and it's a flavor of fire and finding the inspiration at the darkest times. That's one reason that we put out the Christmas tree lights, and we want to light up our world at this time of great darkness. But the further element here of Mars is very important, because Mars is Yang energy, Mars is motivation, Mars is how we push for things, so Mars is that energy that gets us off our butts and gets us doing things. Now the beauty of that is the inspiration to do things, and the drawback to that is that the challenges of being awkward in our dance. And Mars retrograde will bring out the selfish aspects. So it'll bring out the shortcomings, and it'll bring out what needs fixing. I personally love retrograde planets. I have 5 retrograde planets, so the thing about retrograde planets is it gives us a chance to rework things. So one of the blessings of Mars retrograde, and most astrologers will not talk about blessings of retrogrades, but one of the blessings of Mars retrograde is that you can heal the past, that there's power issues that have been in your life for perhaps years or decades, and Mars retrograde is a good time for healing, and it's a good time for completion. It's a good time for having gone full circle and going back in and going, wait a minute, let me look at this again and see what was going on with my behavior or with this other person's behavior or with our expectations. So Mars in Gemini will inspire a lot of mental expectations. It'll inspire ideas. It'll inspire communications. Mars retrograde in Gemini, which takes place from about a month ago until about January 10th, Mars retrograde in Gemini is a time when we can do reworking. So here we are, we're at the dark time of the year, we're at the time with the least light here in the northern hemisphere, and yet it's a fire sign, so that of Sagittarius, so that fire sign of Sagittarius is giving us inner inspiration, and like I said, we can really kindle the internal fires with this energy and really make manifest on the external plane. But as this month unfolds, what's going to happen is first you have, I should mention, Mercury and Venus were conjunct the Sun, moved into Sagittarius just a few days before the new moon. So we've switched from, 4 or 5 water signs to 5 fire signs just over the last few days. And this will become evident over the weeks to come because massive aspects with Mars. So in the course of this month, you would have You always will have the moon doing everything, moon opposition Mars, sun opposition Mars, Venus opposition Mars, Mercury opposition Mars, um, and uh, and then also, almost as a punchline, Saturn trine Mars. Um, so uh, the thing about that is that there's a dualistic approach right now, and being open-minded and considering the possibilities of looking at things from another angle and setting your own self aside and your own perception, and just seeing, like, the compassion of seeing through something through someone else's eyes is a really therapeutic thing right now. As Neptune and Jupiter are in Pisces. Jupiter's right at the tail end of Pisces. 359 degrees in a few minutes into a 360-degree cycle. And so I would ask you as an essay question, what have you missed in the recent past? There was some completions that need to happen, maybe some communications, maybe some going full circle and seeing things in a more holistic way. And that Mars and Gemini can be really good for the duality of seeing cause and effect and seeing, the multiplicity, the multiple facets. But what's going to happen is over the next few weeks, we're having, Mars opposite Mercury, Mars opposite Venus, Mars opposite Sun. So you're having all these things. The full moon with the moon conjunct Mars in Gemini will be December 7th, a day that will live in infamy, as Roosevelt told us, Pearl Harbor Day. And Mars, where it is there, conjunct the moon, will be opposite, of course, the sun, and that duality will become very apparent in early to mid December, and a lot of things to play out. I would say watch your driving, watch your communications, because it's a time when people can be volatile and very impulsive. Here it is, Saturday after Thanksgiving, and they say that there's more people that try to speed home on Sunday after Thanksgiving, try to get it done quicker. This is not a time for getting it done quicker. This is a time for noticing the fires that you're spreading and figuring out where to point that fire. Because what will happen in the next cycle, as the sun moves into Capricorn under winter solstice, darkest time of the year here in the north, what will happen is that's when the plans for the next cycle, the new year, will be happening. And so right now, bring it all to the surface. Bring that fire up and look at it, and look at the coals of the fires that you are creating, because a powerful movement can happen, and forest fire can damage things. House fires can damage things and just annihilate things. But this is not the time for annihilation. This is the time for renewal, and renewal through finding that spark of inspiration and fanning the flames of what's important for you. There's some challenging times coming ahead under the next few weeks, but remember what your spark is and blow on it and kindle that spark, because Mars is also in trine with Saturn a whole bunch of this lunar month. Mars trine Saturn is good for making long-term plans and for putting your ideals to work, and that investment will pay off in the months to come. So find your spark and flame it. Oh, also I want to thank Kate Harnaday for doing the sound, and I also want to. It's right before holiday time, so I want to let you know. Been doing this for over 50 years. Here's a book I wrote on Amazon, Astrological Insights: 50 Years in Astrology. You can order it up. Here's the simplified version, which for some reason is called Astrology Simplified. And that's for, like the this is the cheat sheet for beginner to intermediate astrologers. This is for the ones who have been really studying it. And then also this lovely book called Nature of Place, which is which I wrote, which has to do with spiritual homesteading. And so those are some of my books online. And but more importantly, I like to get readings. I like to do readings. I find that with my busy Moon in Virgo brain, I like to feel like I'm doing good work on the planet. And I thank all of you who have been my clients and who will be my clients. But get a reading, like this page, subscribe, costs nothing, and share it with the ones you love. Because this is a time for great interaction, as you know. So blessings on you all. Happy holidays, however you celebrate it.